Hi, I'm Dee.
I'm Jose.
And we're your token theater friends, people who love theater so much that if we really love a play, we'll see it multiple times. Kind of like Slave Play by who interviewed today?
I mean, mega star, playwright,
Instagram influencer.
artist, performer Jeremy O'Harris, who is also one of the most fascinating people in any medium working right now. So you know him from Slave Play, which is now running on Broadway through January.
Mm-hmm.
He also has the Black exhibition at the Bushwick Starr. He's about to premiere Daddy in London. And he's also working with Playwrights Horizons on a new project. So he's everywhere as he should be. Let's go listen to the interview. We are here celebrating the anniversary of when we first wanted Jeremy on our show.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
It's like you blew up. Like I don't even know,
Really
you know,
fast.
what's like the most can you pick like the most exciting thing that's happened to you in this crazy year?
I feel like it's so
Me and
crazy.
Rihanna?
I think Rihanna, I love that you just said it for me because I think that probably is the biggest thing. But I would also say like there was this is just crazy and I can say it because hopefully by the time this comes out, a real one will happen. But I was at SNL the other day and I found out they cut a Slave Play joke. But like just finding out that there was like the writers of Slave Play of the writers of SNL like were thinking about Slave Play and were like we have a good joke, and it almost made it to air makes me so excited because I love those guys and the fact like half the cast has seen the play like that was really crazy to have like you know Kyle Mooney and Kate McKinnon like say like oh my god like you wrote Slave Play. I was like wait what
You saw Slave Play?
You saw Slave Play? I think that's been really wild. I think being able to like I don't know get messages every single day from like kids that are like in drama schools actively saying like oh my god you're my favorite playwright with the same energy that I would email like Robert O'Hara it's wild. And it's also overwhelming because I'm just like, first of all, like, how did Robert ever respond to any of my emails? Because like I get so many every day, and I'm so bad at responding to them. And I think maybe because like the frequency has changed. Like back when I was emailing him, there wasn't Instagram or Twitter, so there wasn't like this constant onslaught of like different mediums and people. I mean, not to mention Facebook, which I've just given up on. Like I have like so many friend requests. I'm like, I'm not gonna add any of you as a friend because I'm done with this platform. but it's like overwhelming.
I love that you're like single-handedly bringing back the time in American culture when Gore Vidal and James Baldwin and all these great thinkers were on TV. Because we don't usually get to hear from playwrights and writers. It's always just like reality TV people and like, you know, musicians and people see on stage. And was this ever part of like your Jeremy mission?
I think that I do have this sort of like like not to like invoke 45, but I do have this sense of like let's make like playwrights great again. You know, like
Can you make a hat?
exactly. But like I just think it was so exciting to see that like Lin-Manuel was able to like so deeply enter the cultural zeitgeist and the cultural imagination. But it also was like frustrating as someone who's always been a straight play person to have like another musical theater person like enter the mainstream or even have like a musical enter the mainstream like it did, and realize that like plays just never get that opportunity. Like every now and then there'll be like a play like August Osage County, but even that's like rarefied, right? Like it's still like you know like August Osage County will never draw the same sort of like fervor as a film that like Hamilton will if that ever becomes a film. You know what I mean? They both still become rarefied, and I'm like, how can theater stop being rarefied? Like Moliere wasn't rarefied, Tennessee Williams wasn't rarefied. Like you know what I mean? Like we talk to people all the time that didn't just grow up in New York who like knew about Tennessee Williams back in the day. So I'm just like, I would love to see that like my peers and like people I find just so exciting, but just working straight plays, get the sort of recognition that like someone like Elizabeth Merriweather only gets doing The New Girl. I want to see them get that from just writing plays because I don't know that I want to like make my name as someone who's who did write plays and now writes amazing TV shows, even though that's a totally legitimate and totally exciting like way to make a living and way to exist in the world. I just think that for me, I'm really excited about like the age when playwrights could just like write plays and you know them as playwrights, and then the work they do in film and television becomes like supplementary to the work there. But I think that the economy for playwrights to have that lifestyle is so fraught that it's almost impossible. So one of my goals early on was like, how can I try to make a life in the theater possible, and like fruitful for me, so that theater can be the primary source that everyone knows me as a maker in that world, and then find income sources from other spaces that aren't theater, and that aren't theater, TV, or film. Like so that like my primary source of like work and energy is going towards the theater, but I can make money other places.
Yeah. My sister's a lawyer, and then earlier this year she asked me, "Oh, are you going to take us to slave play? Can you take me to slave play?" And I'm like, "How did you hear about slave play?" And then she said, "I follow Jeremy O'Hara's on Instagram."
Oh my god!
And so was that always? I feel like a good amount of people who know slave play know you first as like an Instagram model and influencer. And so was that part of your long game to kind of build your brand among like a group of people who don't normally go to the theater?
I mean, the thing for me was that like social media had not been utilized. I mean, again, not to keep like harking back on Lynn's influence, but Lynn used social media in ways that are unprecedented, and no one ever talks about that, for our space, right? Like his like hashtag Ham for Ham series was literally just like Instagram influencing, right? Like
Yes.
he like created events in a digital landscape that like reverberated out and made people say like, I have to go see this play, and I also need to go to this like weird live event every Wednesday where I can get a free ticket and maybe see Lin-Manuel and Jonathan Groff like do something together. So I was always just like, that obviously works. And so despite what everyone thinks about how you sell tickets to the theater, what if we like forwent all of those methods and went to spaces that like aren't served by the theater, so they can also have this excitement, because it like whether it'll make the like actual demographics change in like monumental things, I see it as like at least the start of putting a pebble down that can maybe dam up the river of like only like white, wealthy, older people coming to the theater. Because for me, it's not about like stopping those people from going to the theater or like kicking them out of the theater. Actually, I just think theater's more exciting when like those people have to sit right next to like my friends. You know what I mean? And my friends generally don't go to places where it's just those people. So I was like, how can we like change this up? So my little pebbles in it was like, let me do social media. Let me engage all my friends who have huge social media followings. I have a lot of friends with like big social media followings, and be like, hey, will you guys just like tweet about my play? I've never asked you to tweet or Instagram or anything about something, and I know it's really stupid and you have your own shit to promote, but like just for me. And they did it, and like I found a lot of new people found me through that. And then the exciting thing was that like early on, fashion and I had this connection with these fashion people. And like I think it like, you know, one of the privileges that I have is that like my body like has a certain I'm a certain type that like makes it very easy for me to fit into a lot of different clothes, and I totally recognize that. And like but I was like, you know, if me wearing like a Pierre Moss outfit in this like fashion spread like sells more tickets to my Black queer play about called Slave Play, and I can also do an interview with that same fashion spread and mention that Strange Loop is my favorite musical, or that Jackie Slipper's Jewelry is someone that everyone needs to know, or Alicia Harris is everything, then maybe it'll also reverberate into their spaces as well and help like theater writ large and not just me, you know? And it's like, because for me, I'm like, how can I use my privilege to like uplift everyone inside of the space, which has been really, and I also think that fashion is a much more welcoming place than people know. I mean, it's also really off-putting, and like in the same way that theater is, though, right? Like theater has its limitations on who it can represent and how it represents.
Yeah. And
like we're constantly battling that and figuring it out and like doing things, but like inside of that, tokenism starts to happen, even in the theater and even inside of fashion. And so like for me, I was always like, how can I not look at fashion as something that's like adversarial to like my sensibilities as an intellect, but actually something that like is very much in conversation with us and has tried to be in conversation with us since Anna Wintour took over the Tonys. And that like theater still has had like this weird sort of like, get away from us. Clothes, who knows anything about that? And, like we literally have costume design as like a main feature of our making. Like why would we like be rejecting things that are not only some of the best theater I see, which are fashion shows, but also some of the best design I see. Like we can learn just as much from them as they can learn from us. And if we can start collaborating with them, maybe more playwrights will start entering into that field, into that intersection, and we'll have something where like one day, you know, we'll see Rachel Chafkin directing a Mark Jacobs show or something. You know what I mean?
Imagine.
Which would be major.
I mean, Bob Mackie just won a Tony, so we're kind of maybe like,
Yes.
a little bit late, but we're kind of there already. One of the things that I've always loved about your work is how seeing it live obviously is so exciting, but then I was reading Slave Play recently, and and I apologize, Steve, for bringing up musicals, but man, it's like the melody. It's a musical that's already there. I was like even like making up melodies. I was reading about all the characters, and obviously if you were to imagine a Slave Play musical, that wouldn't be a Rihanna jukebox musical. Although Love the Way You Lie would be perfect for Kanisha, right?
Yes.
What would that be like? Have you even imagined that?
Well, I don't know that I've imagined Slave Play as a musical, but I do think that my brain. So, like, I did poetry in college, and I was a huge fan of poets, and I think that one of the things that's like kind of interesting is that even I think it's like sort of like a Black queer thing too. Like my best quips are like sometimes like a bit of a rhyme, you know what I mean? And like that happens inside of like a lot of the big monologues of my plays, which is why they're written sort of poetically. And so I'm really gearing up for the moment when I get to finally work on a musical, because it's just like the problem with musicals is they take so much time, and like for me, it's like if I think about a play for 3 years, I can write it in like a day. Like basically, like I can write really fast because it just comes out of me really fast. But when but with musicals, it's like there's so many other collaborators. Like I don't know how to score. I don't know how to do those things. I know what I like in music, and setting lyrics to score is also really hard because I took a class with Marsha Norman and I had to learn how to do that, and I was like, ugh. But yeah, there's some things I really want to do, and I think that musicals are the best form of experimental theater that like make it to the populace. And so I'm always really interested in like how can I do something where I can actually let my bonkers brain like open up and like also invite a lot of people in. Because I think in a stage play, when something is as crazy as an Adrian Kennedy play, you're like, I don't know what to do with that. But when like that same sort of like experimentation and internal like processing happens inside of a musical, you get something like Strange Loop, right? Where it's like that's essentially Funny House of a Negro, but like inside of a Black queer male body and set to music, So I'm excited about that. So I have this weird musical I'm like dreaming up. Do you know the Lazur brothers? They wrote a musical called We Live in Cairo.
Yeah, oh yes.
So we were on a residency together, and I told them this musical I had dreamed up that's based on this cookbook I really like. And they were like, oh my God, like we should do it. And I was like, oh my God. So like that might be something I do at some point. I also would love to I tweeted, and I'm like been so serious about this. I was like, if the Atlantic buys the rights to Drop Dead Gorgeous, I would write the book to that in 5 seconds.
Can we be in it?
Yes, absolutely.
I want to go to that opening night party.
Yes.
Oh my God.
That and Best in Show, I think, are the 2 movies I would do as musicals. Those would be great, right?
I'm skeptical of movies to musical.
Oh, I am too. But I think that like the thing that always fucks them up is that they don't depart enough. The reason Hairspray actually works is because it actually is a departure from the movie. Like it departs from like the abject inside of the movie and like moves inside of like this one aspect of the film that I think is really exciting, which is like the interraciality and the sort of, and I'm like, that's why that one worked. It's because like they were like, let's focus on this, and a lot of them were like, don't choose a focus. They just sort of were like, well, that's the movie, let's make it a musical, and I'm like,
it's like the best lines and put it on stage.
Yeah. Whereas with Drop Dead Gorgeous, it's like, no, like let's really like dig into the Kirsten Dunst character and like what it means to be like the girl who's like is accidentally the best but doesn't know what that means, or some other, that's what I'm really interested in.
Yeah. And for Best in Show, I think Audra McDonald was born to play a Jennifer Coolidge character.
Yeah, oh my god! I feel like people don't know that Audra's funny.
She's hilarious.
She's so funny.
Yeah, she's amazing. So right now, let me see if I have all your projects in order. You have Slave Play on Broadway, Daddy's opening in London soon. You have Black Exhibition at Bushwick Starr, and you're working on a play for Playwrights Horizons also.
Yes.
What have you learned? You're in so many different spaces where many people think that these audiences have nothing in common, and then you're showing them, well, I'm here, bitches.
Yeah.
And what have you learned about each of these audiences that's part of something that you want to share with us? Like, how are they different? How are they similar?
Well, I mean, I think that this is something I tell. So it's been really fun to work on Black Exhibition because I'm working with mainly actors who've never acted before, which has been really great. So, and that was a specific goal of me and Michelle when we were working on the play. Um, I was like, I think it would be better to craft a space where like, if I'm talking about Black queer interiority and like who isn't seen, it doesn't work if I use like all these like Black queer actors that everyone knows. You know what I mean? It actually works better if you work with people who like I met on Fire Island and who like have been a part of like spaces that like don't intersect with the theater very often, because like those are the people who are actually erased from these narratives. You know what I mean? Like Billy Porter is in the middle of our narrative, so like we have a context for that. But like people who are actually on the outer edges of our space actually can represent the abject feeling of being Black and queer and unseen, that I think is like a part of the play, you know? And so the thing that's been really interesting is that like there are so many nights where they do the thing that, and even this happens with like actors in slave play too, where like they go out and they're like, oh my God, there were so many like straight people in the audience, there were so many white people in the audience, and like it was such a bad audience, like they didn't get it, they didn't laugh, and I'm like, no, we can't dictate what their understanding of this play is. We can't. We don't know that. It's like also like the reason our 10 o'clock shows are so much more fun than our 8 o'clock shows is that like people at 8 o'clock are like they haven't had a drink yet. They like just got off work. They're like just had a bad commute to our thing, and so they're like sitting there, and then like they get hit with like anuses, and they're like, wait, what? Where am I? You know what I mean? So they might take a second to laugh, or they might not understand it. And I think the thing I've learned the most is that like I don't know what any audience is going to think, no matter what their demographic layout is. All I know is that what's been most exciting is seeing the audience as mixed as possible. Because when the audience is mixed, it's something that Brandon said about doing Neighbors at the public,
Yeah.
was that like he said there was something about like the back and forth between this is Brandon Jacobs Jenkins, but he said there was something about the back and forth between like a white audience and a Black audience when it was a 50-50 split that like totally articulated what the play was in a way that like it didn't sing that way when it was an all white audience, right? And I think there's something really interesting about seeing slave play on a night that was 804 Black people, like. Not 804 because like I think like 5 white people snuck in, some of them were brought by white people. I mean by Black people, so I don't know. But like seeing the night when like 804 Black people were like laughing like hysterically and like taking over that space was so wild in comparison to the way it works for like 800 white people, it feels like, are in the space, and they're like not laughing at certain things or laughing at like really crazy or laughing really hard at things. I'm like, that's like not even my favorite joke. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? But like, and then it gets even crazier when it's like a half and half audience in the orchestra, especially when like older Black women of a certain age are laughing at like something in like scene 1, and everyone around them's like, wait, they are having an uproarious moment right now? Like, how? You know? It becomes this really funny thing seeing like the difference in generations, the difference in races, the difference in identities. Like it makes the play, it makes every play I do of Gemini. Every play I do gets to be a Gemini because you see two things at once. You get to see what's the play on stage and the play in the audience, and that's true of every play. But I think in some plays, it's more true. The play in the audience is happening than the play on stage, and in other plays, it's very true that the play on stage is happening much more than the play in the audience. And what's been nice is that in both of my theater experiences so far, in all of my theater experiences so far, I've seen two plays happening at once.
So speaking of anuses, I saw a Black exhibition on Friday, and you're practically nude in it. And I feel like whenever people talk about Jeremy O'Hara, they always talk about, oh, he's just so big and out there. And so, but for you as an artist, was that something you had to like develop, or did it come naturally because social media and we have to like put ourselves on these platforms all the time? So has like the line between personal Jeremy and public Jeremy, has that blurred?
Well, I think that like something that I was always interested in work from Europe and work from the downtown, and all those things were so much more brazen and out there and open than like the work that like we studied in school. So I was always just like, how, like, and in school I was so confused. I was like, well, why can't we do August Wilson like this? Like, why does August Wilson always have to be like this? And I'll never, there was a scene I did where I played Corey in Fences, and I brought in a baseball bat and just like sat in a corner and did most of my lines like hitting the wall with the baseball, and they were like, that's not the scene. And I was like, yeah, but it can be. I was like, if this was like done in Germany, it would maybe be like this. And they were like, what? But you're not in Germany, you're in Chicago. Like, chill. And so I've always been like, how can like plays intersect with the personal, the raw, the dirty, the messy more actively, and be by Americans, specifically by Americans of color, because I see that the only plays that we allow to have that license taken with them are plays by Europeans. And I'm like, this is so weird that everyone from the New York Times is so excited about like any time like
Eva Van Hove.
Eva Van Hove or Ostermeyer or any of these like geniuses from Europe come over here and do the crazy thing. But like when we do crazy things, it's sort of like, oh, what are they doing? Experiment. And it's not just, and that's not even on a color line. That's like just like on just like a line across the board of theater makers. And I think it makes our theater makers people who like respect European aesthetics, but like have to distill them through this conservatism. And I was always like, I don't want to distill it. Can we just do the raw shit, you know?
Yeah.
And then not to mention the fact that like with sex and sexuality, I was always just like, something that's been a part of my life so long since like I was a child was pornography. Like when you have the internet from age like 10 on, you can see porn whether you want to or not. Like someone's just like, hey, like come over to my house, and then you go to a house and they Google like penis, and they're like, and then you like see that from like 11 to like you're a grown up. So I felt like it was so weird that in the theater we like denied that was a part of it. And with Black Exhibition, it was like I really wanted to reset. Someone had said to me in a sort of deriding way, where I've been like, yeah, it just sucks because like all I wanted to do was work with the Wooster Group and work downtown. And they're like, well, good luck with that. If you start uptown, you never get to go downtown. He was like, it doesn't work that way. You can start downtown and end up uptown, but you don't start uptown and end up downtown. And I was like, Annie Dorson did. And everyone was like, well, Annie was different. And I was like, well, I don't know. And I was like, I don't want there to be any rules on like what anyone's trajectory is, because that's just limiting. You know what I mean? And I also think it's really exciting to let people know like that as a writer, I'm not interested in putting people's bodies on the line because of some like leering, some leering or voyeuristic aspect of me. It's like these are actually a part of my like dramaturgical psyche, and I've never asked any performer to do something that I haven't done or wouldn't do inside of a play. So like that for me was like another thing that I was like, oh, I think people need to actually see that like this isn't a thing that I like thrust upon other people. I'm not like a sadist. I'm like actually a masochist when I write. Like it's like actually like all hurting me. Like, so it's like and it's been really great to have people who are like, oh, I want to sit inside of your masochism, and like sort of like hungrily say that to me. And I wanted to like get like sort of like tip my hat to like these like 8 performers who were like on stage every night bearing their souls and their bodies for me. I'm gonna be like, while you're doing that, I'll do this down here, and I'll also get naked in this fashion spread. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm like so glad that you brought that up, because I ever since the first time I saw Slave Play, I've been trying to articulate something that your play made me feel. And it reminded me, this is very earnest and very long, so apologies in advance.
No, please.
It reminded me of when I was little, and my mom one time did like the worst thing that I think a parent can do, is that she read my journal from when I was little. And she read how I was writing about wanting to be Princess Jasmine and the Little Mermaid and all of that. And she was like, well, you know that you can also want to be the male characters, right? And I was like, well, first of all, you read my journal, so we'll have a conversation about it later. But watching Slave Play, and I felt that I was Kanisha, because I found so much of myself in her. And it got me to thinking about how your work, very much, I think like Pedro Almodovar's work, there's a lot of coding that goes when we are, queer men, and we have to hide ourselves during our childhood. And we end up putting a lot of ourselves and seeing a lot of ourselves in female characters that inspire us. And I've always wanted to ask you that, if, a part of why you write such beautiful, the mom and daddy, for instance, I was like, I felt I love your female characters more than your male characters. And yeah, I wanted to ask you that if any of that, like, cause we are in disguise when we are queer, when we are growing up, and how that influenced your incredible female characters.
Jose, thank you for saying that because I just saw Pain and Glory, as you probably saw on Twitter. Also Pain and Glory felt like Black exhibition to me, and like I just like loved it so much. I was just like I felt like I was watching like an idol make something that was like messy and raw and honest and auto fiction, but like maybe real. It's like all these things, and like he's just a genius. And Almodovar's always been one of my favorite writers. And even when me and Danya were working on Daddy, we watched Almodovar like every day in rehearsal. To like at the end of rehearsal, we'd go home and like watch another Almodovar film because I was like, I'm working in melodrama, I'm working in these forms, like these are the things that we want to do. And I think that like something that was interesting about, because I think that one of the things that's been really great about the last 4 years is that I think people are having very open conversations that used to happen in private, right? Mm-hmm. Around like who gets to tell what stories and why. And I think it's been really great for people to like start saying certain things openly. But I also think that we've allowed that discourse to flatten and not have the three dimensions that like I think it necessitates. Like it's a flat and like not completely true statement to say that like no white person can write a good Black character, right? Because like if that's said, then we have to throw out Caroline or Change. And I personally don't want to throw out Caroline or Change because that's my favorite musical, right? And I see Caroline, and I know a lot of other people see Caroline as like their aunt, their mom, their sister, their cousin. You know what I mean? And so Tony obviously channeled something as this young queer boy watching like a Black woman who was a housekeeper that he held on deeply and like was able to exercise inside of this play in an honest, complete way as a white man. And I think that looking at specifically queer artists, there has been a history of female characters being like surrogates for queer men and queer identity, and surrogates that like were incredibly well drawn and complicated, while also being like indebted to a sort of like maleness, and whether that maleness intersected with misogyny or heteropatriarchy or all these other things, like is besides the point of the fact that like they also like were seen as complete at the time, and they're still seen as canonically complete because people still want to do them hungrily, right? Like no one's like, like we can't do Blanche anymore because she's written by a man. Like we hate Blanche. Blanche isn't a real character. Stella's not a real character. Maggie the cat isn't a real character. Well, but people are able to say like, oh, like they were obviously surrogates for his like obvious homosexuality and like possible gender like dysphoria and all these other things that like exist inside of his work in a really interesting way. And so in the last 5 years, I feel like we've gotten to a place where like a lot of people are like, men can't write women, period. And not everyone's saying that, and obviously if everyone was saying that, like slave play would have actually been canceled and not have happened. But I found that part of the discourse to have like erased the queerness of it and what it can mean for a queer writer to like see something of themselves inside of a woman, or to like create a woman who could be a surrogate for himself, and like see how that might illuminate not just for him or queer men, but also for women. In the same way that Hanya writing about 4 gay men in A Little Life made me see something that was so resonant about my queerness, but also she wrote like vicious gay men. Like the type of vicious gay men that a lot of gay men are like, that's not a gay man. And I'm like, well, guys, gay men have done this to women forever. You know what I mean? Gay men have created these like really complicated, sort of like hard to look at women that like have both resonated with women and also like completely not, I think that's one of the beauties of being a writer that I'm seeing. One of the beauties of being a writer and one of the beauties of like identification and surrogacy that like are being erased inside of our discourse right now. And I'm trying to figure out how to both make space for the conversation around like who gets to be seen, how their work gets to be seen, but also and who gets to make the work, while also articulating like the necessity for a complex thought around these things.
Mm-hmm. It's like I think that people sometimes forget that even Wonder Woman was written by a man who didn't know where to channel his S&M, desire, and Wonder Woman's no like victim. She's Wonder freaking Woman, right?
Yes,
so
yes.
I think of Kanisha as a Wonder Woman also, and I love her for that.
Thank you.
I feel like you're almost canceled for slave play around this time last year, because this is my theory about it, which is like we had this conversation where sex is odd, and then whenever you add sex to something, it feels fraught and it channels something primal within the audience as they're watching it. And so, because I feel like the conversation around slave play with regards to the sex part of it is it's just titillating and it's beside what the characters are talking about when it comes to race. But I feel like what you're talking about is like how race relations manifest itself within people's actual sexual dynamics in the bedroom. And so do you feel like in talking about slave play and your work, people kind of flatten all of those discussions?
I think they do. And I think it was one of the reasons why, like, in getting interviewed by Tanya Pinkett was so great. Because Tanya Pinkett was like, let's talk about the sex. You know what I mean? Which was like so amazing. So like finally someone is, because like the sex was so not talked about, even in the praise of the play, that it felt like this weird like divergence. Because I think for me, one of the reasons sex is at the core of the play is that I feel like where I've seen people be the most honest about their desires, their positionality, their like understanding of themselves is sexually, right? You'll hear people say things when you're having sex with them. You're like, where the fuck did that come from? But also in the world we've been like, no, you can allow anything in sex. Like that's where the part of it. And so it's like
You gotta separate those two things.
Yes, but I'm like, what happens when I'm like, it's like, for me, it was like, that's the most rife place to have dramatic conflict is around sex and sexuality. Because we have these two discourses. One is that sex reveals something about you, and the other discourse is that sex doesn't reveal something about you. It's separate, and those are two separate things. And what happens when you put that argument in front of you, and what can you elicit? What does that argument become a metaphor for, given whatever ingredients are in it, right? Like, this play could have also been done about just like a straight couple, and wherein the woman is like, I walk around every day with this fear of being, I don't know if we want to ruin it for people. If you haven't seen the play, don't listen to this part. But basically, like this could be the same play if it was like a white woman and a white man sitting in a room, or a black woman and a black man sitting in a room, or an Asian woman and an Asian man sitting in one room, and the woman is like, I walk around every day with the fear that I could be sexually assaulted, and I want to own that fear, and I want you to like do this thing. And he's like, I absolutely will not. That is against my thing. She's like, but I know you walk around knowing that you can do that. You literally look like Brock, whatever, like the guy, the rapist.
Brock Turner, yeah.
Brock Turner. You look like Brock Turner. You look like, who's the guy?
Brett Kavanaugh? Like,
yeah, you look
are we just gonna start naming problematic?
Just like you look like a rapist, right? Like, so like, because you are a man, that is why you look like a rapist. And like, every man looks like a rapist to me, and I want to own the fact that you look like a rapist. And it's interesting that rapist and racist rhyme. Anyway, but like, I was like, that's the thing that the characters are in conflict about, and like, that I just wanted to like put that in the play, and like, so I put my ingredient was like that plus race, because like both of those things are in conversation every time I have sex. Like, there's no way that I have sex with like anyone, black, white, Asian, Latino, anyone, where I'm not thinking about our racial dynamics and like the history of our race. And maybe that's my own fucked up thing, but I am also from the South, and like in the South, everything was talked about so racially that it was like suffocating. So it's like. Even when I was able to breathe, I still remember that feeling of suffocation. And that feeling of suffocation makes me like have these moments where I'm like, that person's Asian, that person's Jewish, that person's that. And it doesn't make me change my understanding of them in any real way, but it does like harken back to being in middle school and knowing that like everyone was like, we're not going to go to Jared Grudinsky's bar mitzvah because he's a Jew. And I was like, wait, what? Like, I didn't even know what bar mitzvah was. And I was like, what? He's a birthday party. We're going to go. And so I was like one of the only people that wanted to go. You know, it was like this, that becomes a part of the discourse. So, okay, I don't know that I can say Jared's same. Just be by the same.
Okay. We're going to bleep out his name.
Now I really want to see you collaborate with Catherine Breillat.
Who?
With Catherine Breillat.
Oh my God, yes, oh my God, yes.
I feel like you're on the same page with.
Oh my God, that's so crazy. Like,
make it happen, Jared.
Maser, Fat Girl, is like one of my favorite movies ever.
Have you seen Brief Crossing?
No.
Ooh, you're in for a treat. Make some time. It's only 80 minutes.
I'm gonna watch it. Brief Crossing.
Yeah, it's my favorite. And to end on a jolly holiday note, it's Thanksgiving month, and who are some of the artists, the up and coming artists, who are you most thankful to have and be working with?
I'm so thankful for so many. Well, there's one person whose play I just found out about last night, and just hearing the title of it made me really excited. But it's a playwright, or not the title, but like the synopsis of it. He's a young playwright, and he's in the New York Theater Workshop 2020 Fellowship. And I can't remember his name, but he has a play coming out, or a play that he's written called American Television. And so it's like American Visions, but like Tele is another thing. And it's about like a Latino family, and like I don't know if I can give it, but like it sounds so good. And someone's sending me the script, and I'm like, I am so excited that this person is thinking in this way about like the Latinidad in America and like aesthetics and like experimentation, and that like people are like really into a young writer. So I'm really thankful for him. I'm excited for Jordan E. Cooper, Donnie Love, Michael R. Jackson, Keeley Gibson, Jeremy O'Brien, Jeray Breon Holder, Josh Wilder, because I feel like I've grown up with a coterie of queer men in my peer group, and it's so amazing that like there was once a time when there was only going to be one every couple of years, and I'm coming up in a year and in 2 seasons when multiple of us have like debuts, shows up, and are able to go to each other's shows and like be excited about each other's shows, and that's amazing. And like not to mention the fact that like so many of my friends are doing so well right now, and I'm really thankful for them. So like Liza Birkenmeyer, like I'm so excited she got the review she got. Will Arbery is getting this great love right now. Celine Song's play is coming to New York Theater Workshop, which makes me really happy. Alicia Harris's tour is going crazy. So I'm really excited about all those people. And then Antoinette Nwandu and Lynn Nottage came to see my play the other night. And knowing that Antoinette and I have both shared a director and that she has been such a champion, she sent me an email or a long video of herself after seeing Slave Play, dancing to work and just being like, thank you so much for this. That like, that was one of the first indications that like I wasn't canceled. And I was like, okay, cool. Like this has been amazing. And like, also Tori Sampson, because the fact of my time at Yale is that besides Jackie Silvers-Jory, my Black female teacher was Tori Sampson. She was a third year when I was a first year. The entire time I was working on Slave Play. And the thing that everyone knew about Tori, and the reason Tori is so revered at Yale, is that if Tori doesn't fuck with you, you will not see the light of day. Like, you will be completely buried. And the fact that Tori, like, always, when her big thing with me with Slave Play was like, keep writing. I want to read more. I want to know what's going on next. I want to know what's going on next. And she held space for that play and like held that play close and saw that play deeply from first draft when it was just 30 pages to final draft means the world to me. And she was my teacher because I know for a fact that if Tori had been like, you're canceled, I would have the show would not have got to New York. Period. Because like I'm not someone who doesn't take my peers into consideration when I'm working, and I took her deeply in consideration when I was working, and that was huge for me. So Tori Sampson's someone I'm deeply grateful for.
I'm grateful to see you conquering the world. So go keep doing it. And thank you, Jeremy, for joining us.
Thank you.
Wait, so why do you relate to Kanisha?
For the reasons that I said in the deep, this is very private.
Yeah.
It's like my sex therapist now.
Because I relate more to Gary in Slave Play. But
Really?
Yeah.
I relate to Kanisha a lot because I, for some reason, and usually end up dating white men who pretend not to want to like subjugate me and not to dominate me, and they do. And when they learn that I'm onto them, shit goes down. So I love Kanisha, and it's like that thing that I was telling Jeremy, that I was like, I grew up, and you've asked me this in the past before, like, why do you identify with Judy, and why do you identify with like Audrey Hepburn and all that? Because it's, growing up, they were my surrogates. They were the people who were voicing what I couldn't say, and usually that meant love problems with men. So I love Kanisha. Like, if I could go see every actress that's playing Kanisha play Kanisha, I totally would.
Yeah, same. If I could go back to Slave Play and watch Gary tell off his boyfriend.
Well, but tell me about Gary now then.
Okay, so my thing about Gary was his line about, and I'm paraphrasing, like, I never realized like I was valuable and I was desirable, because when you grow up in a culture that tells you that whiteness is what's the most desirable, like you feel like your worth is always in relation to that, and you use your and whenever I've dated white people, I've always felt like, oh, there's always a voice in the back of my head that was like, oh, you're lucky because you get to like date up. I know. This is the race shit that no one ever wants to talk about, but it's all underneath us. It's in our subconscious. It's kind of like that. It's kind of like that OkCupid study that showed like what race of people were the most desirable on the apps, and so it is. And so when he verbalized that, like I realized, oh shoot, I never felt worthy either. And now I realize I am the prize.
Motherfuckers.
Yeah.
So thank you, Jeremy, for putting that into the conversation. And if you're watching this, please go on Twitter and tell us about how Slave Play or any other shows that you love relate to your sex life. And let's talk about sex, baby.
Let's talk about sex.
It's about time.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you again, Jeremy.
Oh, and remember, theater's more fun when you take a friend. Bye.